Yay!
Alrighty, and we are live. Hello, guys. Welcome back to Gabbin with Jessa. Haven't done one of these live shows in a while, and it has been sad, but I am happy to be back with my faves from the Interstellar Book Club. We are excited to be back. We're almost hitting our 3-year anniversary, which is crazy to think about. But here we are going to be discussing our September pick, which was Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. But before we begin, I would like all of my fellow hosts today to reintroduce themselves. Again, it has been a little while since we've done one of these here on my channel, but go ahead. The person directly next to me is Steph, so go ahead.
Hello, my name is Steph. My channel, I can do this, Coffee Over Apples, right there. Wow, wait, right there.
How to do this.
I read everything, lots of horror, sci-fi, and random goodness. So yeah, hi. And then we have a special guest today. I can do this. Natalie.
Hi everyone. So I mostly live on Book Talk, but my origins are on BookTube. So I am here. So let's go down here.
Hi guys, I'm Melody from Strawberry Lemon Books. I do a lot of fantasy and yeah, I'll update sometime in the future.
Hey, I'm Max from Max Reads on BookTube. Usually do single book reviews. I recently resurrected my channel. I'm back from the dead. Thank goodness for that. Lovely to be back. And yeah, looking forward to talking about this one.
I feel like a lot of us are back in our resurrection phase of just, having some time off, just life happening, and trying to get back into the swing of things. So I love that we're all here today and with our special guest. If you guys are ever interested in becoming a guest like Natalie is today, we have a Discord server that I should have linked down below in the description box. We're always there. We're always chatting. We're having a fun time. It's not just talking about the books that we are reading, but just like sci-fi and other fun, nerdy things in general. Alrighty. So, if my memory serves me correctly from how we usually run these things, we'll talk about some non-spoiler opinions, ideas, what we rated the book, things like that. We'll then talk about the book that very briefly we're going to be doing for October. So that way, in case you do not want any spoilers, you can peace on out after we announce the October book, and then we'll talk about some spoilers. So I guess, I don't know, we were kind of chatting beforehand as we were all getting situated that this might be a little bit more of a spicy video, so I'm excited to talk about that. But I think what we'll do, we can just go ahead and go around the group and say what we rated the book. I gave it 3 stars, but like a positive 3 stars, not like a I hated this 3 stars. I just don't know why people say sometimes 3 stars means bad. Like, it was fine. It was perfect. It was just perfectly average, and I enjoyed it. So I gave it 3 stars for me.
I think that's fair. I guess we'll go around this way. I also gave it 3 stars, and I agree that like 3 is in the middle of. I had a fun time. It's not a new favorite. It's not horrible. I don't hate it. I may have some strong opinions about it, but that doesn't mean it was bad. So we'll talk about that in a second. Natalie.
I gave it 2.5 stars.
She's downgraded. Whoa.
If something makes me angry, it has to go towards 2. It was a 3 for a long time, but I was like, no, I'm so angry. I can't. It has to be a 2.5. So that's me.
I gave it a 3.5. I feel like I just wasn't in the mood for this book also, but yeah. I think Max might be the outlier of the group.
I think I am with this one. When I like picked this up, and when I'd heard what this was about, I was like, hell, it's gonna be a 5-star, like 100%. I'm so excited for it. And it was like most of the way through. And then I feel like the last third kind of took it down to a 4 for me.
It's fair.
But highest rating in the group. I liked it. I thought it was cool.
I also feel like I'm in the same camp where it was like range around a 4, 3.5 to me, and then I think that ending third just kind of brought it down a little bit, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but like sometimes it just happens like that. So
same. I was at a 4 for most of the way, and then brought it down to a 3 at the last third.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. So does anyone have, just right off the bat, any non-spoilerly, whatever, spoiler opinions on the book before we get started, as I'm going to look up some discussion questions that I can find online.
I'm
like, go.
I mean, I'm trying to think of what we can say that's not. Most of the things I really want to say are going to be in the spoilery section.
Yeah.
Let's talk about favorite and least favorite characters in a non-spoiler way. Can we do that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Domingo has my whole heart. I love him so much.
Yeah, I agree.
Sweet. We love him. I can't, I don't know what to say. I feel like Atla is kind of split. Like some people either love her or hate her, and I can't say why. Which camp why I am in the second camp without getting into spoilers. But what I will say is that it's very much even though this is a sci-fi club, if anybody who's going into this thinks that the way that you would read this is sci-fi first, it's not. It's very much the cyberpunk part, I think, is more what makes it sci-fi, but that's not a priority here. So what category would you guys say that this would be predominantly?
I would put this in like dark fantasy, urban fantasy.
Yeah.
Vampires.
Yeah, that's a category for me. I'm like vampires.
It's its own thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Isn't that weird though, that it's its own thing as a genre? Because originally vampires would have been like fully like horror. This is horror. And it's just become like vampires. It's like a whole other little basket now. Super weird.
I think that's important too, because there's a certain part in the book, again, without getting to details to make it spoilery, but like where they kind of, aside from all the nerddom of vampires that the author very much clearly throws into this very lovingly, like she talks about in the foreword all of her vampire nerddom phases, and then gives you a lot of that in text.
Yeah.
But there's conversation there about vampire romances kind of dominating this field, and questioning, is this book supposed to be a romance or is it not, just because there's vampires?
It kind of had the romance, without going into spoilers of it, in the romance-ness of it, it really reminded me of Let the Right One in the way that you get to the end and you're like, was there anything there ever? Like, and it just makes you question that based on the fact that one of them is a vampire.
I never read that.
It's really good.
Who's that by?
John Ajvide Lindqvist is a Swedish author.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just really interesting that, just kind of like what we were saying, like it's not just horror anymore. Like there's like, these are monsterish creatures, but now, especially just with vampires, and I think it's obviously because of the Twilight phenomenon of what it was, they can be used in other ways now. It doesn't have to be always scary. It can be romantic or like neo-noir or dark fantasy. We can use them in other ways, and I hope that not just vampires, but like werewolves and other traditionally horror monsters are also kind of put into other genres besides horror. If there's still some horror elements, that's great too, but I really like to read and see more traditional kind of ideas of what we have in different settings, because that just always makes it more fun and more enjoyable.
I need more urban fantasy with werewolves.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can only get my fix from Wattpad, but I need something more substantial.
Okay, if anybody has those recs, please drop them.
I'm sure I've got something. I'll have a look after.
Alrighty, let's see. I thought this was interesting just because this is my first Silvia Moreno-Garcia book, and I like how it does take place in a major city, but it's not the traditional type of major city that we're used to seeing, like New York or LA or anything like that. It's Mexico City, and it's something new to me. It's something that I haven't read before, and I like that we are able to get, again, that more city traditional feel, but in a different kind of culture, not just American culture. It's something different. It's something fun, and it brings a lot of, I think, better world building and story building, again, because it's somewhere like I personally have never been and haven't really read much about. And so it's really fun to be able to explore a different city with a different culture, but still have this kind of like American ideal of like the vampire saga and things like that, vampire stories. So I really like that.
Off the back of that, I do wonder, because whenever I read a book that's set in London, sometimes I'm like, oh, this is really good. It really like showcases what London is actually like. But sometimes I'll read something and I'll be like, this is a pile of shit. So I really wonder how this reads to people from Mexico City. I would be really, really curious to know if it like represents it well.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Yeah.
That makes me think of the author. I think his name is Kevin Kwan. That like he is writing from an Asian American perspective, but as if about characters in the mainland, and it's been contentiously received in the mainland. His work, so it I don't know. Like I haven't read about people from Mexico City reading this and feeling one way or another about it, but it could be interesting to look into.
Yeah, I think what I loved about this was we getting all our Latina vampire fix. And I don't know that in like the common culture of American discourse on vampires, if it's really emphasized at all, that vampires are pretty like ingrained in Latina folklore a lot. And I loved that so much that we got like the not only just snippets of Aztec culture, but the Nahuatl language. And there was a certain scene where I forgot who was it, but someone like threw things on the ground, or every time the main character vampire Atla would see things fall like salt or corn or whatever, she would have to count it. And my grandmother used to do that because she came from South America, and at night, every night she would take rice, throw it on the doorstep so the vampires couldn't come into the house until they counted the rice. And every morning she would sweep it away. And she did that even when she came to America. And I was like, yep, that's very spot on. So just like little things like that were very fun.
That's really cool.
That's really cool.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
We have 5 musketeers today.
Yes, all the musketeers.
I love that. Thank you.
But I'm being chill right now because we're in the non-spoilers. I'm like, I'm more reserved and calm.
I'm waiting until we cross that line so that
yes,
Steph and Natalie can just pop off.
Well, since we are so itching, does anyone else have anything they would like to add?
Well,
I would
we
like
were
to
just
say
talking about characters that we like.
Oh, true.
I was just gonna
Only
say,
Steph went.
I'm in the Bernardino club. Bernardino is my favorite.
Yeah, with him. I also really liked Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Rodrigo's my favorite. Give me a man that just wants to retire, but absolutely is not able to. I eat it up. Every single time.
Yes. John Wick, but way less skilled and also just way more like crotchety.
John Wick, but really tired.
Way down by a younger kid.
Yes. Oh, I love that so much. What do we think of the bad guy? Was he a high quality written bad guy, or how would you describe his villainness?
A young teenage boy.
Yeah, it kind of felt it was like his. I don't know. I don't feel like he had any real motivations as a villain. It was just like this this guy is a dick, and that was the whole motivation for the villain plot.
Right.
Yeah.
That was one thing I wasn't super into. I was like, make the villains a bit more compelling.
Yeah. Given how quickly this book read, it very much feels like the novella that I think Garcia talks about in the foreword of that this started off as like a side project, a mini story, and then she just kind of ran with it and turned it into a full novel. And it feels like that to me, very much so. And also just like a love letter to vampire goodness.
Did it feel to anyone else like this was part one of a story? I really felt that.
Yeah.
I can see that now, thinking back on it, yeah.
I feel like it should have been like a family saga.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I could see that. Yeah. It also felt like it read like a new adult. Is that fair to say?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's fair. I agree. Yeah. What about it made it seem new adult to you?
At first, the age of the characters and the decisions that they were making just felt very much like, okay, as a young person, I could see relating to the decisions that they're making, the struggles that they're going through. Even like you said, the villain, like he reads as like a dumb teenage boy, you know, but they were, they age ranged from 17 being the youngest to 23, 25. And then Rodrigo was like in his 40s, 50s, I think. And then Bernardino was like hundreds of years old. So it ranges.
The best boy.
It wasn't even the dog that was the best boy. It was the 1,000-year-old vampire that was the best boy. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Spoilers, let's go.
Alrighty. So, before you leave, if you do not want any spoilers, we are going to be reading for October The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And then let me see here. I'm just going to quickly read off also the little description on Goodreads. So if you've never heard of this before, what is it? This says a groundbreaking work of science fiction. The Left Hand of Darkness tells the story of a lone human emissary to Winter, an alien world whose inhabitants spend most of their time without a gender. His goal is to facilitate Winter's inclusion in a growing intergalactic civilization. But to do so, he must bridge the gulf between his own views and those of the completely dissimilar culture that he encounters. If you do go on Goodreads, it does say it's number 4 in a series. But through research, we were able to figure out that you can read this as a standalone story. It's not going, if you haven't read the first 3, no big deal. I know I personally haven't read the first 3 yet, but I'm still excited to dive into this one, and that you don't really need to worry about reading the other 3 for this one, which is also why we picked it as well.
For our 3-year anniversary, by the way, this is such a red hot book. This is like top tier 10 out of 10 sci-fi.
Okay.
So you all better show up for the live show, because we're gonna have some serious hot debates.
That's exactly what we asked for.
I'm so excited.
Yes, we're also all going to be eating snacks.
Yeah.
And we're also going to announce a winner of a giveaway. So if you're not in the Discord and you didn't drop your Amazon link yet, do so please, so you can be a part of that.
Yep.
Tune in and watch me eat cake like an animal.
Alrighty. So, thank you guys so much if you are choosing to tap out at this point. And we are going to begin our spoiler talk now. Someone pop in.
Natalie, go ahead.
Listen, I was vibing for 3/4 of this book, and then Atul became my number 1 enemy. I cannot stand that girl. She sucks. I cannot deal with her. I cannot believe that we spent all this time with poor stupid little Domingo chasing after her. And then she's like, you know what? Peace out. I'm going to this other country by myself. I'm not even going to look for my stupid dog. I'm just leaving. Peace out. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? No, I'm not accepting this. I do not accept it. I do not accept her believing Bernardino's crap about vampires cannot love humans because blah blah blah, because we're only gonna think of them as food basically, and we're only gonna be our own priority. When I'm like, literally, you proved that wrong throughout the whole story until the very end. It's like your character development was doing this, and then you said, actually, no, let me go back. Let me go back. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Mm-mm.
Spoken like a true romance aficionado.
Yes, and proud.
I feel like, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if anything, I don't think the ending was brutal enough. I think it should have been resolved like hard the other way, and I think she should have like fallen to her nature and like totally like killed Domingo. I think that would have been like the perfect ending.
That I would have accepted that. I would have accepted that. Yes.
Same. I would have actually accepted that. But this nonsense where she just walks away and it's like, Bernardino's right. We can't love humans. Bye. No. Stop.
To be fair,
You're
I
irritating.
too would take everything Bernardino said as gospel truth at face value.
So I feel like, how many other books have there been? Cough, cough, Dune, where where the main character is like, should I do this? Should I just walk away from this? I could live a life of peace. And then I'll be like, yes, leave. I don't care if the story ends here. I know there's 5 more books. Just go away. And they're like, nah, I'm gonna stay. But this girl said, peace. And I was like, where are you going? Come back.
And like, because like that, I was like listening to it on audiobook, and I was on like my plan period, which I have the last period of the day. So I'm just vibing by myself in my classroom, and I was like, what is happening? Like, I am so glad that I like didn't have to focus on anything else, like teaching the next period or anything, because I'm like, I wouldn't have been able to do it. It reminds me, so I watched The Secret Life of the American Teenager a few years ago for the first time, and when spoilers for Secret Life of the American Teenager, it's been out forever, but like when Shailene Woodley's character like leaves Ricky and she's like, you know what, even though like we are co-parenting in this, I'm gonna leave and do my own thing, you're gonna be stuck here with the baby. I was like, what? And I like, it just gave me similar feelings where I'm like, why are you doing this like, because her parents are like, you need to go and live your dream. It's like, you have a responsibility now, like even though you're only 18. Like I don't know, it was just give me similar things. It gave me flashbacks to watching that series again just for that ending, and I was like, I can't, I'm done.
Melody's rubbing off a Maxi Iron Widow.
Oh, was this where you wanted her to just go crazy at the end?
I think
And
so.
be a villain? Yeah. I like hard agree with that as well. Yeah. You talked me around on that one.
I'm glad.
Feral women. Give us feral women. Give
Yes.
us. Yes. Also, I will say though, as someone who is very much open and honest about the levels of trash TV dating shows that I watch, that through this entire book, Atla did give us clues. She basically did that thing from Love is Blind season 4, where the
Episode 3.
where the love interest was like, listen, there's gonna come a time where you're not gonna like me. I'm gonna become my old self. I'm gonna be toxic. This isn't good for you. And then the main love interest says, it's okay, I'll be here for you always. And it's like, she told you. She told you she's toxic. Like, why did you stay?
This is something I thought I would never hear in the discussion about like a vampire sci-fi.
Oh no. But yeah, so Domingo's so sweet. But at the same time, to his credit, he was rock bottom, barely scraping by. So like we haven't talked about the fact that he was homeless and he was living, in the subway, under the subway rails, in like a room that he little made for himself. And he was like collecting trash and things like that. So he, in a sense, I feel like he saw her as a way to something that gave his life some other kind of meaning. So I get his sudden devotion to her, and that she could like provide him with things, and that he could care for her in a way that he just wants to love and be loved. But also like, baby boy, no, there's other ways.
Red flag, run
Gave
away.
him the time of day,
Yeah.
and that's what he wanted. Sadly,
Poor stupid Domingo.
At least he got the dog in the end, I guess. I can't believe she didn't go back for the dog though. Like, this dog saved you how many times, and you didn't even like go and say bye to the dog at least.
Yeah.
not even like, because she didn't even know if it really was dead or alive. She was just like, forget even its remains. Bye, peace. I'm like, what?
No.
This dog was literally your ride or die before anyone else. Before anyone else. And you're gonna be like, forget that dog. Bye. I got places to be.
Yeah. At least she did leave him with the money, though. I got that wrong in the Discord chat. She left him with money, so I'm like, all right, we'll take it.
I was too mad. The fury was too strong. I'm like, I don't care if she gave him money or not. The disrespect is too much.
Yes. Oh man. I mean, like, the dog, honestly, though, please tell me if you saw anything else, but I feel like the dog was the most sci-fi element of this book, just because it had, what did it have? It had something.
Like some bioluminescent or whatever.
The tattoos on the doggo.
Yeah, it had like tattoos, and I don't know if some other genetic enhancements of some kind.
Yeah.
This is one, speaking of like sci-fi elements, this is one of the books where the cover really influenced the way that I pictured stuff as I was reading it. And because it's all like shiny and neon, my brain kept trying to like cram some like cyberpunk imagery into it as I was reading it. I found it really hard to shake that. My brain kept trying to tell me it was a cyberpunk book.
Yeah. Definitely pulling snapshots of Blade Runner constantly. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
What else? What else?
Yes.
Should we talk about the detective noir part of it? Because that was at the forefront. Who has anything to say about that? How do we feel about Anna, the detective?
I felt like it would have been more interesting if we'd had the whole story from a noir perspective.
Yeah.
With just these other things happening in the background, and then the main character being Anna, who's slowly piecing stuff together at the same time that we are. Whereas it was like Anna trying to solve something, but in the background we already know what's going on. So there's no dramatic tension. We're just sort of waiting for her to catch up, which felt kind of weird.
Yeah, I feel like she was underutilized or like misutilized in that
Right.
sense, because I do feel like that part was interesting. And honestly, Max, what you just described, excellent TV show. Because the whole time I was reading, I was like, this would make a great TV show, but Max's version, an even better TV show. I'm like, give it to me.
Good.
I need it right now, please. But yeah, it was kind of sad because I literally, while we were waiting, Steph and Jessa, we were trying to remember the names of all the characters, and we were like, wait, what was her name? The detective?
Yeah.
Because of the central cast, it's like she's the most forgettable, but it's not really even her fault. It's just how it's used in the narrative.
Yeah. I was thriving though when her whole thing, when her body was taken over by the powers of the bad guy and she was like fighting it. I wanted more. Like I wanted that to be stretched out more. But then she just gets murdered and I'm like, damn.
Exactly.
I'm a kid. I'm like,
Yeah, it was just sad. It was sad.
It did. You're right though, Natalie. It just felt like a waste.
Yeah, because wasn't she was like a single mom or something too, right? Just trying to like figure out, like go around like the corrupt system that like she's there. It's like there's so much more that could have been explored and developed like through her eyes, and just missing a little bit.
Do you know what it kind of felt like? With that and with the ending with Atla, it felt like the author was trying to subvert our expectations of how the story was going to play out for different characters. But whereas it would be super interesting to have your expectations subverted and for something to happen and you to be like, oh shit, I never expected that. That's insane. But they were like subverted in a way that was like, oh, like I guess that's the ending.
Okay, here's a thought. Do we know the age of Anna's daughter? Her daughter was also in high school, right? I think.
Yeah, I think she was in high school.
Yeah, I think somewhere around there, yeah.
Okay, because I don't know if they said exactly the age, but if she's around Domingo's age, because Domingo was 17, which is still like upper high school age, potential ship, trauma.
You got to the end, and you're just like, I will have a romance.
I've converted stuff too well.
Yes, it could have ended as a romance. It could have been a Marisol and Domingo ship, and they could have happily lived ever after, helping each other get past this trauma. But no.
Trauma bonding. That's what you're saying. An excellent start to a romantic relationship.
Obviously.
I mean, the bar is low.
The bar is real low.
So,
do you think, in terms of a vampire story, I really felt like one of the author's main goals was to sort of break the mold of a vampire story. Do you feel like it did that, or do you feel like it turned out quite samey in the end, or do you feel like it successfully was something new in the genre?
I have a thought. It's forming. Hold on. Okay, so my first thought is, with going back to a point that was talked about earlier of how vampires and like creatures that are blood-sucking are an important aspect of Latina folklore, that I want to hesitate to say that it broke a mold rather than just bringing something that always should have been having a place in the forefront of vampire literature. Like, okay, this is something that needs to be published more often.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it necessarily broke the mold for people who are familiar or of Latin American like culture to be familiar with this, but more so for like the Western audience who is not familiar with that. Is that making any sense?
Like, it seems new, like what you're saying, because I was kind of thinking the same, like it seems new to me that it did break a mold, but that is also because I am not familiar, because it's never been shown through Twilight or anything, the actual like Latin culture behind vampires. So my first instinct was to say, oh yeah, it did, because it was something I never like read or experienced before. But I really like your point of saying maybe it's not necessarily breaking the mold, as just saying how it is, essentially, like what a culture has thought of vampires from the past and their traditions and things like that.
I feel like in a way it was just trying to make reality in this fictional space, like because there are different lores about vampires, And in essence, she was like, how about they all exist? And they're all regionally located and they can move, obviously, and they can live in different spaces, but now they're actually all real and they still live under the category of vampire. So breaking the mold only in that sense that typically in a vampire story you have one type of vampire, or at most you have a pharaoh vampire, and the vampire that's under control like restrains themselves in some way to some capacity. So that could be the newer element, I guess.
Also, bringing it back to it feeling like the first book in a potential like duology or series, because towards the end we get a mention of, I'm pretty sure I'm like butchering the way this is said, but they were African vampires. Oyimbo. I gotta look it up and correct my pronunciation. But
and the like glossary bit at the back.
And well, yeah, it was also brought up in text at some point, like very briefly. And I was like, oh, this would be a great setup if next book we get more vampires from other parts of the world. Like that would have been awesome. I'm gonna look for it now.
I feel like for vampires, I'll either know horror or romance. And then since there was romance in this, that based on the ending, I was like, do we really need the romance, or could we have like a really like good friendship kind of thing? And that would have been a little different. But
that was the dilemma for me from the very, like, once I finished it, that was the problem for me. I'm like, if your goal is to say truly from the beginning that humans and vampires cannot be together, why are we even bothering with a romance then? Like, don't go there. Like, you don't have to try to tackle that and then be like, wait, no, actually, psych. I'm like, no, like I feel like you wasted my time. Or that there would have been a more effective way of conveying this message. And I don't feel like it was effectively conveyed here.
Do you think that might have anything to do with who the target audience is?
Maybe. You might be right.
Like, who is the target audience here? And it's Obaifo. I found it.
Yeah, because this is classified as an adult, right?
Yeah.
Not YA. Maybe it's trying to target people like us and our age who grew up with Twilight as teenagers, potentially, trying to be like, hey, you can still have that little vampire romance, but here in a different format of it. So maybe it's for people like our age and older, like slightly older, who grew up with having Twilight as either a teenager or young adult already. But especially for those who had it more in like who were like college age or adults, I feel like they may not like it as much because it does still feel like young adult or new adult in a way. So like we were talking about before, like maybe the target audience is trying to be more adult, but it just felt younger than it should have. So maybe that was where some issues were also as well. I'm trying to think about it now. It's all running through my head.
It kind of felt like a gateway book for like people who read YA. Maybe this would lead them on to reading more adult dark fantasy.
I can see that.
Yeah, to me, the ultimate thing is like at the end, I'm like, I see so much potential. And that's part of my frustration with the story, because I don't know that Asel should have ever been as central to the story as she was. Like, I don't feel like that was the right move for this. And that's why I'm like inclined towards like a family saga. Like, I would have loved a story about when her family was still alive and they were running shit and all that family drama. I'm like, give me that. This orphan shit, and then she's Domingo and all that. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, I would have rather all this stuff of this actual story from Anna's perspective as an outsider. And so we start with like the glory days of this basically vampire clan. And then we're hit suddenly with they've completely fallen apart. They're this chase going down for one of these kids, and you're the detective trying to figure out what the hell's going on, who's after her, why does it matter, all of that. I think that would have been more interesting, but
I'll take that and I'll raise you even one better on that. Right. I think that is exactly what would have been the interesting part, right? But imagine a story where half of the story was that done in flashbacks. So like every other chapter was the historical events. We know everything has fallen apart in the present. So we're just reading the like past history family drama, like waiting for the shit to unfold through the whole story while we're like having these detective events from Anna's perspective in the present.
yes,
That would be so good. That'd be so
agreed.
good.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I'm gonna get on afterwards. Like, dear Silvia.
That's very fair, I think. Well, that being said, though, the back description, like, you know, sometimes when you read a description of your book and you're kind of like, oh, how much farther are they going to go? Right. It literally, the last sentence of the description is, will they make it out alive? And it's like, no, this is the plot. This is the entire plot. It is just, she's in the city trying to get out. Does she get out? End of story. Like, it's just very straightforward.
Yeah, it's very simple. Like when you really boil it down and strip off all the frilly bits, it's very, very just like they're trapped. Will they leave? Maybe. And that's the whole book. Has anyone read anything else by the author?
Yes.
How does it compare?
It does not. Yeah, the
This
short
was
answer
my
is it
first
does
one.
not.
This was my first one.
Yeah, I don't think that this is a true testament to the author's writing.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's fair to say as well, because it's one of her earlier publications. So like it's more than natural for it to not compare. But this is my third book of hers, and
You're a seasoned veteran.
I was like, oh honey, I see the nerd. I'm like, she's a nerd through and through, and I respect her for it. But I'm like, you were a young child. I feel that because I feel like Mexican Gothic and Silver Nitrate really show more of her writing skills and more thought out narrative, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but in general, she is the kind of author, and she says it herself. She's like, just because you like one of my stories, that does not mean you're gonna like literally anything else that I. So, because she just likes to dabble in different genres, different topics, etc. So far, I was not put off by this one, but I'm like, okay, I need something else to forget this.
Yeah, I feel the same way. If this was my first book by this author, I might be more hesitant to pick up another one. But having read other of their stuff, I'm like, no, it's okay. Sweet summer child. I know it gets better.
I might be the odd one out. I read Mexican Gothic and it wasn't my favorite.
That's fair. That's okay.
If I will be continuing reading her books. But I do see that Mexican Gothic, I feel like the writing style is a lot more like, you can see more of her writing her style, I feel like.
That's fair.
And Gothic stories are already like not for everyone. Like if you don't like a Gothic type of story, if it's not for you, it's not for you. So it makes sense.
Yeah, I think even in that book, it's very much like if you're a Gothic nerd, you're going to be thriving. But if you're not, maybe it's not for you. And same thing here. Like I haven't read Silver Nitrate or the other ones of her books, but at least between Mexican Gothic and Certain Dark Things, it's like nerddom. That's the starting point.
Kudos though for like trying out different genres and stuff. Not a lot of authors do it.
And she's been thriving, honestly. Because it's not just not like trying it, it's actually succeeding.
Right.
She's making bank doing it. So
her. What else can we talk about?
Let's
Oh, speaking of Anna, can I keep it on Anna for a second?
Yeah.
The detective. There was a point where I didn't agree with the decisions that she was making because we spent some time where, which I did enjoy, of like her being a woman detective in this predominantly male industry, and she's also a single mother. She's struggling, like she's already getting disrespected everywhere she goes, and she doesn't want to risk her job. But she also understands that because she's not gonna get pushed forward or promotion, or people just keep blocking her every step of the way politically, that she kind of needs to do things in an unorthodox way, and even to just get by. So when the gang members or the Scarlets or like whoever that red gang was, that approached her and was like, hey, we want to work with you, that she immediately was like, no, I'm not risking my job. And I was like, but we just spent some time talking about how you need to risk it for the biscuit, even just to like survive. So it would make sense to me that you'd be like, this is the only option I have.
Yeah.
Because playing by the book isn't working, right? So her hesitancy to work with them kind of caught me off guard. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a bit of a double standard. That there were some rules that she was perfectly willing to throw out the window, and others for no reason. She was like, But in my head, that gang is canonically called the Red Gang now. I do wonder though what the intent was with Anna getting killed. Like, what even was the message?
That's a good question.
Considering it's like a single mother, woman prevailing in a male-dominated industry, do you think there'd be like an ending with some like iota of success or vindication, or like you did it, all your hard work paid off? It's like no, she's died. I wonder what the thought process was behind that. Like, I want to know what the message is intending to be.
I think that was one of the more frustrating deaths. Like, I was expecting Rodrigo. I was like, this is the natural path of this man.
Yes.
That's his archetype.
I think he knew that as well.
Who wants to retire? He's gonna die. He's not going to be able to retire. That's his role in this story. But like, Anna did feel like, but why? Why would this be the conclusion to her story? Like, and then what happens to Marisol? Like,
yes.
And now what happens to her daughter?
It's just left. Yeah. That's why I'm not gonna repeat it.
But then that kind of plays into the whole ending with Atla leaving Domingo. It's like the author is trying to be like, no happy endings.
Yeah.
For nobody.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of Oprah. Not for you, and not for you, and not for you.
Yeah.
And maybe that was just a point, just to be like, no one's going to be happy. So maybe that's as simple as that just wanted a bad ending for everyone.
Yeah, like 3/4 into the book, and the author's like, in case you forgot, everything sucks.
Okay, what next? Who haven't we talked about yet?
We haven't talked about all the stuff that was going down in the chat with people having an issue with the info dump. Did you feel like this was an info dumpy book? So, yeah, it is. It fully is, right? But at the same time, because going back to your point, Steph, about how this, as someone who has predominantly been given like Western vampire content, with this being a world build that I'm not familiar with, I was like, hell yeah, give me the world build, give me all the info dump stuff. So like, I didn't really mind it.
I will agree as well. Yeah, it felt like it, but also I'm like, I'm learning. I'm fine with this.
Yeah.
I thought that was one of the aspects I really enjoyed about the book, was learning about the different vampires and their weaknesses and how they feed and stuff like that. That was really cool.
For me, I read a lot of YA, so I like, it doesn't bother me that much. It's the kind of thing that like I don't immediately catch it and I'm like, oh, this is so irritating.
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever. I'm like, do I actually need all this information right now? No, ma'am. No, I don't. I don't. But am I gonna be like, okay, cool, thanks for the info, let's keep going? Yeah, I'm more willing to like just roll with the punches and be like, okay, that's nice.
See,
Thank
for
you.
me, it wasn't that I got the info. I wanted the info. That's totally fine. It's just the way in which it was given, because with Domingo being such a himbo, he was the perfect catalyst to say, Atla, I have so many questions. Can you answer all my questions? And then she could give it to him. But instead of that, it was like, we're in Atla's head and she's like, let me tell you the history of vampires in my brain. And it's like, he's standing right there. He's already asking 1,000,001 other questions. He could have asked that question too.
It should have been, the ways we should have got the information were Domingo asking loads of questions, like you said, and Anna doing research.
Yeah, we could have gotten a lot from Anna because she has killed vampires and knows their weaknesses.
Yes. And Anna also in conversation with the gang members, because they keep saying, oh, you're a professional vampire killer. And she's like, no, that was just dumb luck. And so that could have been a chance for her to go and do the research. Like, okay, these are the vampires I'm facing. How can I kill them? Blah, 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 blah. But you know.
I always feel kind of mean when it's very different when like somebody gives you something that's unpublished and you have a lot of feedback on it. But it's like, this is a published successful book. So and I have lots of criticism of it because I feel like it was wasted. But then clearly there's loads of people that really loved it. Like,
I mean, it's not a bad book. It's it's the first that the author wrote. And it was just like, it was just a fun time. I don't know. I've been reading a lot of extreme horror lately. So this was just like, ooh, palate cleanser. Yay.
She says when we have like multiple scenes of literally eating people's faces.
It's still pretty like tame YA.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's levels. This is just, it's like, I don't know. I feel like gory horror that's just straight out for shock value is like, oh, that's fun. It's like watching a movie. But then send me into existential dread, and that's true horror. I'm just like,
Yeah, when Nick finally got his like lower jaw like ripped off or whatever, I was like, yes. He deserves it.
Yeah. Which again, that scene would have made a great TV show. The whole battle scene. Yeah, it was fun.
All right. Anything else?
Do we want to say anything about Nick? Nick the Dick?
Nick the Dick. I just don't feel like it was a very compelling villain at all. Like there's not a lot to say about Nick because there's not a lot about Nick.
Yeah.
But
he just wants what he can't have, and then he gets angry when he can't have it. Yeah.
Spoiled rich boy.
Yeah, pretty much
his motivation.
Causing other people to die unnecessarily.
Yeah. Which I really just feel like Nick was fuel for Rodrigo's character arc.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Poor Rodrigo.
I mean, he is also a jerk. Like he's chosen this life of crime, but also
but he's an interesting jerk.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think that's all I got.
Yeah.
All right. Any final words as we are nearing our 1 hour mark?
I'd say maybe just going into this book, temper your expectations, and and know what kind of book it is before you pick it up, because chances are it's not going to be what you think.
It's fair.
Yeah.
Just go in looking for a fun time.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Okay, so just as a reminder for those who are still here, next month we are going to be reading The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. Again, I apologize if I said that wrong. We are so excited. Next month is going to be, like we said earlier, our 3-year anniversary. So we're going to be not only discussing the book, but having a fun time doing it. We'll have a giveaway. Again, that giveaway, all the information you'll need is on our Discord, which I should have linked below. If not right now, then I'm going to go update that as soon as this is over. Please make sure to follow all of our lovely hosts on all of their social medias, on YouTube, on Book Talk, on Goodreads, on every single platform you can think of, probably. There's so many of them now. But yeah, it was great to be back. I'm very happy that we did this. It just made my day, made my week, and I look forward to seeing you guys next month in video format or on the Discord as well.
Woo!
Alrighty.
Come join us.
Yay!
Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, don't forget to follow all of the lovely people here on the screen, and we'll catch you next month. Bye-bye.
Bye!